formal training.
And the more you do the critique group, the more you will be picking up stuff.
Yes.
So you will start contributing more
Yes.
and more. So don't be afraid to join a critique group. You will provide value, and
Yes.
you will get value out of it.
And even in Rose's Colored Glasses, I'm very careful about, we have published writers, we have people who are very close to being published, so they have a lot of skills. And we have brand newbies, and I always try to match every single person who comes to the critique group with at least one published writer, one experienced writer, and one newbie, so that you've got, you've got somebody who's going to actually help you with your manuscript.
And
Go ahead.
as with picking a writing group, when you're picking your beta readers and critique groups, it's important to understand what the goals of the group are. Because if you get into a critique group but they're all on the hobbyist level and you're going for the published level, you're not going to get the kind of feedback you need.
And too, you need to make sure that the critique group is, that there are people in that group that read and write the same thing you do. I mean, if you get into a group that is strictly paranormal and you're writing a mainstream mystery, then there might not be, there'll be some help, but for concept and reading, it's good to have somebody that actually knows. And I know with the Rose's Colored Glasses one, when you sign up, you have to put what you write so that everybody can see that, if you want to swap out, it kind of gives you a little better idea of who you've got.
And also what you're willing to read, because some people,
Yeah.
they don't like to read erotic romance, or some people they're inspirational writers, and so they don't feel comfortable reading erotic romance or paranormal or anything. So you put down what you read, what you will read, what you write, so that she can match you up better with who would want to read that and who you would want to read.
And
So
don't ever hesitate to say, I really don't like to read that sort of thing, because then you're not going to be effective. If you don't like that genre, you're not going to be an effective reader. Pay for editing. Now, I self-published one book, and it was the case of I had submitted it to an e-publisher, and on request from an editor that I met at a conference. And then she didn't get around to looking at it before she left that company. So then I contacted the person who took her place, and I said, so-and-so had this, and she said, oh, I'll get someone to look at it right away. 3 months later, I emailed and said, hi, do you remember me? And she said, oh my goodness, did no one get back to you? Okay. And this went on for about a year. And I said, okay, that's it. This book has been edited, self-edited, critiqued. It's ready to go. I'm just tired of waiting. Kind of goes back to what she said about timing. I hired an editor. I hired a cover artist. I hired someone to format it. I did do the uploads myself. But that editing, I really like having a paid editor behind me. I mean, I went through one round of editing and I paid for that. And I thought, okay, that's good. She made her comments. I went back through, I made my adjustments. And I said, okay, I want somebody else to look at my adjustments. I'm not sure I'm comfortable with this. So that's what I did. I paid for a second round of editing just because I wanted that comfort zone. Self-publishing is not going to be for everybody. And I'm not sure that it's for me. But it's an interesting way to go.
one more thing about the pay for editing. A lot of people will say, well, I had my high school English teacher edit that. That may not be good enough. You really need to have somebody who's editing commercial, if you're writing fiction, commercial fiction editor. Somebody who understands the genres, somebody who understands what sells, so that they can help you to shape that book into something that's going to be sellable. If you get your high school English teacher, she may go strictly for grammar.
And we keep talking about commercial fiction. This is also versus literary fiction. Literary fiction is a whole other genre. And that's usually what you get in your college courses in English composition and whatever. It's usually literary. And I've seen people that have just gotten dogged by a professor in a class, an English composition class, because they were writing for commercial fiction. And they were basically told, oh, that's just not right. You've got to watch who you ask to edit for you, and make sure that they understand what you're writing and why you're writing it. There's several places, this AutoCrit, I haven't used this.
I have.
Can you tell about that?
AutoCrit, there's different levels, and the first level is free. You can put in like a 3,000 word scene, and it will find your grammar errors. It will find if you have problems with repeated words, like I love the word just.
Oh, yeah.
And it'll find all of those so that I can have a chance to get rid of those. But AutoCrit's cool. It's not going to tell you whether or not your story sucks, but it will find, grammar problems, repeated problems, cliches that you may have thrown in, that sort of thing.
Microsoft Office, when you use Word, it also has a grammar function that most people don't realize because it's usually not the default option. But if you go and look at your setup options in Word, it'll have a grammar function, and it'll actually let you choose the things that you want it to look for. Like, I have the fragment sentences turned off because I use a lot of fragment sentences because that's how people talk, that's how people think. They don't necessarily think in full, formal, now you don't want to overdo it, but again, it's just one of those things, I get tired of the squiggly line, So that's another option that you can do for self-editing. But again, it comes back to, this is your first impression on a reader. You want the reader to come back for more. And in order to do that, you want to make sure that your prose is in good a shape as it can be, and that may lead to paid editing.
Word does love semicolons.
So,
I know, and I don't like semicolons.
No,
It wants me to put a semicolon everywhere.
yeah, and you can turn that sort of thing off.
Oh.
And something to consider about the different options of editing, you might use all of them. So, and you want, the more editing you get into your manuscript, the better it's going to be. However, don't edit it for 3 or 4 years. You want to move on to your next project. You don't want to beat that horse to death.
Yeah, if you're stuck in that cycle, it's time to get somebody else to do the editing for you.
Are there any questions now about editing? Okay. We're going to move on to, okay, now you've got your book written. You've gotten it edited. And I'm not going to let you go. I'm terrible at this. You've got it edited, and now you're ready to self-publish. Anybody got to that point yet? Anybody got their book written? They've got it edited properly? No? Maybe? Yes? Okay, now you're ready to self-publish? First of all, you really, really, really have to have a great grasp of Microsoft Word. Because before you start formatting, you better have your duckies in a row in your manuscript. If you have a lot of tabs, if you have a lot of extra characters in there that you can't see until you turn on that little paragraph button, you know what I'm talking about? What's that thing called?
The one looks like a double P.
Looks like a, what's it called? It looks, I call it a paragraph button.
It's show formatting.
Yeah, show formatting. You turn that thing on and you will see all the little icky things that are floating around out in your manuscript. And those things have to be gone. Because if you start to format and you start to upload these things into the different publishing sites, you will crash and burn. So you have to get a great understanding of your Microsoft Word. And once you do that, you'll be so much happier. Even if you pay somebody else to do your formatting, it will make their life easier as well. So get a very firm understanding of your Microsoft Word. And the things that you want to understand about it is getting rid of those tabs. And you want to make sure that you have your header style. You have 2 different styles that you're going to be very, very comfortable with. That's the header style, so you know where your headers are going to be in your chapters. And you're also going to want to understand normal. Normal is going to be the font that you use throughout your manuscript for other than header. And you want to understand your page breaks so that you put them in the right place. And just get a real firm understanding. Learn something about it. Don't just say, "Oh, I'll let somebody else do it for me." Because what happens is, well, let me go on. What happens is you're going to go pay for somebody else to do the formatting for you. Okay, well that's good. That's good when you're starting out and doing self-publishing. That's really good to have somebody else do the formatting for you. However, that limits your flexibility. So if you have a change to make in that manuscript, you have to pay somebody to format it again and again. So maybe you had a single word misspelled that it's killing you. You got to go back out there and you got to fix it. You have to have somebody format it again. So learn Microsoft Word. It will pay for itself. It's totally pay for yourself. But I don't discredit the fact that you should go out and hire a formatter, because if you really don't understand it and you don't have the time, go hire a formatter.
The thing I want to say about formatting is, you can't stress the importance of getting that right, because as fascinating as your manuscript may be, and as wonderful as the story might be, if you've got a big block of text that's all scrunched together, it's just not readable.
Yeah.
You've got, and that's what she's talking about, you've got to make sure, it's just, you can't stress the importance of formatting.
Yeah, and there's another thing. When I started out learning how to do the self-publishing thing, Smashwords has a really great guide out there. If you go out to Smashwords and download their free guide, it's free. It will teach you how to clean up your manuscript a little bit. There's a way to do that, and I don't want to go into the minutiae details, but it cleans up your manuscript, but it also cleans out all your italics and stuff like that. So if you learn how to set up your document right to begin with and start writing in it with the right format already loaded that way, you're going to be so much farther along. I mean, if you're having to go back and restructure your whole document, it's going to take you time. I know somebody right now who's been working weeks on her 100,000 word manuscript to get it in the format. And you do not want to do that. You want to start from, I'm starting to write my story now. I want to set up my document the right way now, so that later it's just going to be a matter of loading it up. So, learn Microsoft Word. Take some lessons in it. Do that. You will benefit. And then, so Smashwords, if you do have a document that you already have out there and you know it's a piece of crap and it needs to be formatted properly, go read that Smashwords guidelines. It will help you clean it up. You may have to go back in and put your italics in, but it will at least get all that crap out of there. So, and then you have to learn how to put your headers back in, and you'll have to learn how to make your document all the normal text in there. So there's a two-step process still, because you're going to have to learn Microsoft Word. And then there's a tool out there that I use when I'm doing my formatting. You have to set up different formats for the different publishers that are out there. Amazon, they prefer the .mobi format. Barnes & Noble prefers the .epub format. Same with Kobo, I think they prefer the EPUB format, and so does Apple. I haven't tried to upload to Apple yet, but that's next. And CreateSpace, where you do your print books, they prefer the .doc, but they want it clean. They want it really clean, and you've got to really understand your page breaks and stuff like that. So you have these different formats you have to do. On your ePublish site, when you're doing an e-publishing, if I'm getting too detailed for you, let me know. On the e-publishing site, there's a free software called, I call it Calibra, but everybody else calls it Caliber. I like my pronunciation. Calibra.
You like that?
I like it. Where you can take your Microsoft Word document, and what you actually have to do first is take your Microsoft Word document, and this is how crazy it can get. You save it into a HTML format, which is your web filtered. It's web filtered. And that puts it in a format that Caliber or Calibra can take. You load it into Caliber, and you say, okay, now convert it. Convert it to Mobi, convert it to EPUB, convert it to whatever. If that document's not clean, if you don't have all those tabs out of there, if you don't have it in the format that's clean from the doc point, it will crash and burn. It will crash and burn, or you will bring it up and it'll have weird text in there, and so you really have to look through it after you've converted it to make sure that all the text is in the right place. It's not, tabbed over or have. I think I had one that had bullet points. I don't know where those bullet points came from, but it was there. So that's when I had to start learning how to make my docs clean.
Yeah, and even if you pay somebody to do that for you, you still want to go back and check every single one of them.
That's why I had to learn how to do it, because I paid somebody else to do it. And I got those weird, bullet points, and I couldn't get them out. And I passed it back to my person I paid for 3 times. And I finally said, enough. I went out to Smashwords guidelines, cleaned up my document, went in and learned how to do my Word doc, because that's when I finally learned.
Finally learned Word.
When I got desperate, I finally learned. And went back to the Word document, cleaned it up, put the headers in there, and saved it for the web filter. And and then off I go to Caliper. And Caliper has worked great for me. Other people may have had some issues with it. I tend to think they have issues because they didn't have their document right to begin with. So it's not, you think, I want to do self-publishing, that sounds great, I can do this. It's not as easy as you think it is, and it does take time, and it will take time away from your writing. But it is an option. And I've published 18 books so far, so I mean, it can be done, and it can be semi-profitable. I'm not making tons of money, but I'm making money at it. So, and as I put more out there, the more that my backlist will sell.
And
so.
she takes credit for doing the formatting on the Turpentine Creek.
Yeah, I did the
anthologies.
formatting for the ebooks on the Turpentine Creek short stories, as well as putting the Create Space. I had to learn how to do Create Space in order to put that book together. So
Print book.
it wasn't that hard. I say that, but it also, most books have chapters.